Hello, everybody. We are live. John Aravosis here, Washington, D.C. Welcome. Let me get the TikTokers going live too here. Woo. I've got my mics. I may actually be prepared today. We're going to find out. Oh, let's see who the first TikToker is here. Come on, TikTokers. Come on. Let's see if it's Manda Bear. Oh, it's not Manda Bear. Borderline, you are the first person. Manda Bear, you're number 2. Borderline beat you on TikTok. Look out. Hey, Ireland. Hey, everybody. Do a quick little intro as always. First couple minutes, take you guys and just kind of say where you're from, if you would. Woo, man. So what's going on, folks? Manitoba, Australia, lovely. Puerto Rico. Oh, hey, everyone. Sanibel Island. I think I've been there. South Carolina? No, Florida. I don't even know. I've been there. I've been there, though. Yes, it had to be Florida. There were lots of little no-see-em bugs that my first introduction to them, I was not pleased. Finland, welcome. And I mean that in every way. Oh, hi, Evie. Driving while listening. Oh, that works, I guess. Woo, and I'm sitting here again. I am in the perfectly wrong position in my apartment because the sun is coming in right here. So I'm staying leaning back for now. But there's nowhere else for me to do this conveniently. I could do it at my desk, but it's really ugly. And I just think it's nicer with a nice backdrop. So for you all, I am braving the sun. As you know, if anybody's new, you may not know, we go the first 5 minutes or so just to let people slowly get the notification and come in. TikTok can be evil and not quite give notifications. So we'd like to thank you, Borderline, for that. Appreciate it. But yeah, we go for about till 5 after the hour for folks just to introduce yourself, say where you're from. Oh, and thank you, and throw goofy things on my head on TikTok. I don't know what else. Hey, Billy. Good you see. Eating pizza. I know I had my Jack's frozen pizza I brought back from home. One of the only frozen pizzas I can stomach is Jack's. It's a wonderful Midwestern pizza that they don't sell out here in DC, and it drives me crazy because it's really good. And Christy, my favorite little C effect, thank you for that. You did get a notification on TikTok. Oh, that's good at least. Okay, maybe I'm just less popular. Oh, and the galaxy that I love. Is that Christy again or who? No, that was... Who was that? It like popped away. Hi, Mary. And thank you for the Borg thing. It didn't say who that was. Sorry. It was like, you know what? That effect was so cool that it like went on so long that it drowned out the name. I'm sorry about that, but I love the little, although often that is Christy. I hope it was. Anyway, guys, like I said, we got a couple more minutes here. The only one who ate Jack's Pizza is so damn good. But is it Midwest? Do they even sell it out anywhere else? I feel like telling my local Harris Teeter and say, buy this pizza. Seriously, I cannot stand frozen pizza. I am a pizza snob from Chicago, and Jack's is quite good. And the reason we're talking pizza is that we go until about 5 after the hour, and then we kick in with our show just to give people time to get here. Just like yesterday, although I did start it correctly today, but just like yesterday, the TikTok, for some reason, I think they're not notifying people. Walgreens, yeah, but not here in DC. Walgreens, I could look and see. I don't know if Walgreens. There are very few Walgreens in DC, of course. Oh, thank you, Becky. Appreciate you saying that. Anyway, yeah, we'll give it another minute or two. But boy, it's going really slow on TikTok. Something's going on. I'm feeling throttled. That's very strange. By now on TikTok, we should have 3 times as many people. TikTok's playing games. I know people aren't getting notified. There's something going on. I don't know. Not getting a notification, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Canadians are getting, well, at least if Canadians are getting getting the notification, I appreciate that. No, it's very strange. I don't quite know why TikTok's doing this. Oh yeah, it definitely flattened out. Anyway, guys, another minute and we'll start. And then we'll see if we get more, you know what I'm going to do again? Because TikTok is being evil. I'm even going to do, while we're waiting, I'm going to do one more little thing. that tells folks to join us live, because maybe it'll get more people popping in here. Hold on a second. Let me try this. Hey, everybody, I am live right now talking Ukraine. Hit that button at the bottom that says live. It'll take you there. See you guys soon. Hey, everybody, I am live. All right, let's see what that does. Evil TikTok gods. And Dragos, this guy's absolutely hilarious. Let me just share. Dragos. It says Dragos, yeah, Dragos comedy. Absolutely freaking hilarious. This guy's one of my favorites. Dragos comedy. He's from Romania and just brilliant comedian. Oh my God, brilliant comedian. Anyway, all right, guys, you know what? TikTok's being evil. I don't care. Let's start anyway. Very weird, though. I'm a little annoyed that they're doing this. Yeah, it definitely throttled people today. All right, well, TikTok being bad, but kind of annoying. Anyway, all right, guys. So as always, I'm going to start leaning back out of the sun for a bit. I am going to start for about 20 minutes of news. Not a ton of news today, but news. And then, that's right. We get to turn off the invites because all these losers think that they're actually going to be invited to join us. Some guy with his shirt off. I don't think so, but hey, it's worth a try. I'm going to, for Q&A, once we get to the question and answer period, on TikTok, you can answer the questions at the bottom or answer. Enter your questions at the bottom of the screen. It'll say Q&A, question and answer. Please do that. On YouTube, you guys know, and LinkedIn and everybody else, use the comment box. Also on YouTube, you know that if you buy the Super Chat questions, I always get to those immediately because that is your way of supporting my work, and I appreciate it. So I always promise to get to those questions next. And on YouTube, on TikTok, you don't have Super Chat questions. I wish you did, but at least you can buy fun little things, and I will thank you for those as well when I see them, because I appreciate that as well. Let's dive right in. So Finland and Sweden applied today to join NATO, which was excellent. Big heart there for them. Finland, the vote in the Finnish parliament was 188-8, which was amazing. And again, for both of these, you've got to think about where they were months ago. You know, both had support for NATO in the 30-some percentage range. Thank you for the heart and the Borg on TikTok. And to get it up, Finland, I think I want to say in the 70 percentile. Sweden at least was upper 50s last time I checked. I'm not sure where it is now. Hang on. I was going to start one of the programs in the background. Hang on a second. That Syndicate always tells me to do, and I forgot. Here we go. Here we go. 1 second. There we go. All right, that started. So that is all good news. The sort of funny thing that came of this is the Russians are now saying, oh, we don't care that Finland and Sweden are joining NATO. It's no big deal. They're our friends, or they're not our enemies anyway, so it's really okay. And, it has not gone without notice that the whole reason the Russians were lying, of course, but the whole reason the Russians claimed that they were invading, Ukraine was they were very upset about Ukraine possibly joining NATO, which Ukraine wasn't doing, right? Ukraine has been wanting to join NATO for 14 years and NATO hasn't been budging. But nonetheless, that was the argument. And now that Sweden, I am going to call it Finland and Sweden. These are the new names now, clearly, for the two countries. Now that Finland and Sweden are joining NATO, or at least in principle, if Turkey doesn't cause a row, the Russians are like, oh, it's no biggie, no biggie. So I guess NATO really wasn't the point here. As for Turkey, let's see what happens. A lot of people still think the Turks, they want more F-16, fighter jets from the U.S. They want them to come faster. Basically, the Turks are negotiating. And, they're causing some trouble, but they're probably just negotiating and trying to get something more out of it from the U.S. So hopefully that is the case. But anyway, let's see what happens. But I think we can count on Finland and Sweden joining. I think so. Now, the Azovstal deal, or the Azovstal deal, I should say, this whole deal with trying to get the hero troops out of the steel plant in Mariupol. For a couple days now, the Ukrainians, not the Ukrainians. Oh, you know what? Let me do something real quick first. somebody had told me this before. I wanted to give a recap of the stories I want to talk about and then recap them at the end just because it might be interesting. I haven't done it, but I even had written recap at the beginning. So we're going to talk about the Azovstal deal and whether, in fact, these troops are getting, are escaping, so to speak, are getting rescued. Russia is digging in the territories it occupies. That's not good news. Russia's doing more nighttime raids. The U.S. is considering blocking Russian debt payments. The European Union is talking about reconstruction money for Ukraine, but tying it to things. The U.S. is talking about using tariffs on oil, possibly instead of an embargo for Russia. Russia is considering withdrawing from the WTO and the WHO. Russia is still attacking healthcare facilities in Ukraine. And I forgot who yesterday, was it CWB, blah, 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 but wanted to talk about COVID. I dug up what I can. There ain't a hell of a lot of news. There's no news about COVID in Ukraine. There's no news at all. I found the data, but there ain't no news on COVID in Ukraine, which I thought was kind of interesting. So anyway, back to the Azovstal deal. So the Ukrainians think they reach a deal with the Russians, where the Russians are going to let the 1,000 or so troops that are in that, still in that steel plant in Mariupol out, and they will be exchanged for Russian prisoners of war. I had said at the time that I was suspicious that the Russians would ever agree to this, and why wouldn't the Russians just hold the troops captive? Well, the Russians are causing all sorts of problems now. They're first of all doing their little filtration BS with the troops that are out already. Yesterday, 264 troops came out. Today, another 7 buses came out. Judging that by yesterday was like 10 buses, 264, so 26 a bus. 7 would be 140, 170 maybe. So what would that be? 430 total out of 1,000, maybe. That was my quick math. So that's something. We're not at half yet. And the Russians are already saying they're going to interview all these people. They're going to search for nationalists. These were, remember nationalists? Nationalists, well, basically Yahtzees, as we use the word, because we don't want to use the N word. Thank you for that. Was it baby? Baby. They're looking for Yahtzees, the N word. And they are, part of the way they do it is they look at your tattoos. Now, they're not looking for swastikas. They're just literally looking at tattoos on these guys and trying to discern by looking at the tattoos whether it's, a far-right supremacist tattoo or something ridiculous. So anyway, that is of some concern right there, that they're going to take some of these guys and pull them aside and say, we're not releasing them. We've deemed them to be, Yahtzees, so to speak, the N-word. At the same time, the Russian Justice Ministry today asked the country's Supreme Court to declare Azov, the battalion these guys were members of, to be a terrorist organization. That certainly isn't going to help to return them for POWs if they're deemed terrorists. And the Russian parliament is considering banning the transfer of the same people, the Azov people, for POWs. Now, none of this is going to happen without Putin's approval. The court's not doing anything, and the parliament's not doing anything without Putin's say. But let's see what happens. Thank you for the owl. Was it Canadians maybe? What I said yesterday is there's no great reason. I mean, Russia doesn't lose anything by trading these prisoners for POWs. But I think they gain a lot more by basically kidnapping them, because Russia's been claiming that they went into this war to stop the Yahtzees. And Azov, going back to 2014 at least, did have some creepy ties to the far right. And I mean, some very creepy ties. They were called, neo-Nazi organization, or at least tied to or affinity with neo-Nazis. That means neo-Yahtzees, I should say. That means if the Russians are trying to claim they invaded Ukraine to stop the Yahtzees, then this is the perfect opportunity for them to say, look, we found some, right? And if you found them, why would you return them? If you invaded to get rid of them in the first place, you wouldn't return them. So to me, it almost made more sense for Russia in search of a mission here to say, look, we got them, right? Now, the downside, what's the downside? Ukraine's going to keep some more Russian troops longer. Putin doesn't care. Putin's using them as cannon fodder anyway, right? Putin doesn't care if they keep the troops forever at this point, right? So that's not a harm. Ukraine's going to kill them. Ukraine's not going to kill the troops. You know, there was that one Ukrainian soldier, I think, that looks like he may have committed a war crime and filmed it, you know, shooting the Russian troops or something. That was one guy. But the Ukrainians in general are not going to be killing the Russian troops. The Russians, on the other hand, could they execute all of the POWs they get? Sure. So anyway, it didn't make sense to me from the beginning. There's nothing stopping Russia from doing this. And I think there's a lot convincing Russia to do it. Anyway, my predictions look like they're coming true. Let's see what happens. Russia is digging in. I talked about this yesterday, and more news on this. There was a quote here, and I hate this because I grab quotes and then forget where I get them from. We see how in the Kherson region, which is that town in the south, but also a region right north of Crimea in the south that the Russians occupy, and in the Zaporizhia region, the Russian invaders are actively, this was the Ukrainians talking, obviously. The Russian invaders are actively carrying out engineering and fortification work to move to defense if necessary. Thank you, Canadazen. I'm never going to get your name correct. I tried, though. I'm going to call you Canada. It'll make it easier for me. And the idea there is that the Ukrainians are the Russians are digging in. You know, and literally digging in. I mean, doing the ditches, putting in anti-tank stuff, possibly even putting in mines, but they're setting up super defense so that it is hard for the Ukrainians to attack later on and try to take this land back. And in essence, it forces the Ukrainians to be on the offensive. It forces the Ukrainians to have the disadvantage that the Russians now have. You know, that it basically it's easier for the defender than the attacker. So that's something to keep an eye on. Russia's also doing nighttime raids. I couldn't find a lot on this. I saw a reference, but it was worth bringing up because it was one of the only negative things I saw talking about how things were going for Ukraine, and I figured important for us to know. But that basically Russia's doing a lot of nighttime raids now, trying to overrun Ukrainian positions in Donbass, which is the eastern Ukraine, and it has left them, quote unquote, in dire need of strike and night vision donors for not donors, that's the wrong word. It was drones, strike and night vision drones. I'm going to guess they're strike drones and night vision drones. So my guess is probably it's drones that can attack and then drones that are good at night at seeing what's going on. But it's somehow putting the Ukrainians at a bit of a disadvantage. So that's something to keep an eye on. This was an odd story that I just saw before coming on with you guys. And it's odd, especially because we've been talking, water. Remember how we've been talking about how the U.S. a month and a half ago, started the process where Russia would have to default on its debt, right? And the clock was ticking, like for 30 days. And we thought the clock was ticking until like the end of April was the 30 days, and Russia, there was no default, and it's not clear what happened. Well, now there's a Bloomberg story saying that the U.S. is considering blocking Russian debt payments, which would, significantly move Russia towards default. Again, not defaulting. I don't know what the hell's going on here. I will say this. Why the hell are we considering? One article said considering. The other article said U.S. is poised. We're poised. In other words, we're ready, just on the brink, ready just in case. Why is there still anything left that we haven't done to Russia at this point? We know none of this is going to change their mind. What we're doing is trying to punish them and to destroy their war machine and to take money away from them so that they are less able to commit war. Why? Again, the beginning of April, we had decided we finally were going, mind you, and it wasn't even the beginning of March. Remember? March, we gave Russia the pass and we let them access money in the currency reserves that they have stored in our banks. We let them access the money instead of even though it was frozen, to pay their debt. And we let them do it. And then the next month, the beginning of April, we said no more. And we were asking, well, why the hell didn't you do this in the beginning of March? But at least you did it now. And then by the end of April, Russia would have defaulted. Well, then they didn't default. And maybe they didn't default because they used some of their own cash to pay. I think you guys were saying some of that. I can deal with that. But why is there now some other move we're considering that we didn't consider 2.5 months ago? Anyway, it's annoying me. I just feel like we're doing we're doing this piecemeal thing, and there's no explanation for doing piecemeal because it's not like, oh, Russia won't, if Russia knows we're going to do this, they're not going to commit genocide, right? Any case, I'm annoyed. The Europeans are already talking about reconstruction money for Ukraine. Sorry, thank you for that. Saying it's going to be hundreds of billions of dollars needed. They want to tie the money to fighting corruption and reform in the government in Ukraine. At first blush, it doesn't totally bother me because I'm like, okay, if you're giving hundreds of billions of dollars or lending or whatever to this government, I could see them wanting to say we want to make sure the money's going where it should go, and part of that is in reforming the system, right? So I get that, but it still seems weird to me that Ukraine is getting destroyed. Thank you for that, Anna. Is getting absolutely destroyed, and the Europeans are already talking about putting conditions on the aid to get Ukraine back on its feet. But I'm very divided on this because I can see, if there are still corruption problems, they should be addressing it. Often money is international money when it's just loaned generally. There, IMF or World Bank or whatever, it can be tied to positive reforms. This doesn't feel like the time. To me, this doesn't feel like the time that we should be saying, hey, we're there for you, but you're going to have to jump through some hoops or we're not going to help you. Anyway, bothers me a little bit. Thank you for that on TikTok. The European Union. Oh, this was it. No, the U.S. This was interesting, actually. Except that I'm still trying to understand the logic here and I couldn't find it. The U.S. is suggesting that the European Union, rather than do an oil embargo because they're having problems getting Hungary and other countries on board, that the European Union impose tariffs on Russian oil. And the article was saying the U.S. was arguing that this would cut Russia's fuel revenues, from the sale of its oil. And I was trying to figure this out. And again, I've studied economics. Not as an economist, but I've studied economics in grad school. And one of the things with tariffs is, and we saw this in the U.S. when Trump put tariffs on China, there was this. Thank you, Firefly. This is pretty. Trump kept saying China was going to pay the tariffs, and that's not how tariffs work. Tariffs often are paid by the middleman. It's complicated, but they can be paid by the middleman, by the company in the middle, and they would simply add to the price of the good so that the consumer ends up paying. So in America or in Europe, it would be the consumer of the oil that ends up paying, that the oil costs more. So it wasn't totally clear to me, unless you're getting into supply and demand stuff and it's raising the price of the fuel and how that compares to alternative oil that maybe they can be buying. But is there really alternative oil thank you for that. Is there really alternative oil already that the Europeans could be buying? Because wouldn't they be buying it, right? If they could buy other oil, they would buy other oil and not buy Russian oil. So I'm not understanding. And if any of you get the economics of this, how would putting tariffs on Russian oil cut Russia's profits rather than simply raising the price on European consumers? Unless they're, again, literally arguing that demand is elastic. I remember my terms. And by fuel prices going up in Europe, demand somehow goes down. But again, does it really? You're not going to heat your home in the winter because the price went up? Really? You're not going to use gas? I don't know. I would think those things, thank you for that, on TikTok, I would think those things are pretty inelastic. But like I said, I'm curious to hear from some of you guys if you can weigh in. This was kind of a funny one. Russia's very upset, as you can imagine. They're not exactly winning this war, and Russia is now considering withdrawing from the World Trade Organization and the World Health Organization. Now, the World Health Organization is about stopping plagues and just that, being healthy. Russia, not a totally healthy country in the grand scheme of things. It's the WTO. I thought the World Trade Organization I didn't get it. This was literally before I came on, and this like literally takes me back to grad school, economics and trade. So I don't remember a lot, but I seem to remember it's beneficial to be part of the WTO, right? That help trade, and doesn't it help you sell stuff? And if Russia leaves, does that not hurt Russia? I just don't. I mean, I don't get it. And them leaving WHO, I mean, I think it's better to have more countries in WHO and everything, but like, aren't they harming themselves more? I just, not to mention in WTO, at least trade, the Russians, like, I thought I remembered for a long time, the Russians and like China too, that they were like trying to become parties to it, as I recall. I thought that was the case, Lola, thank you for that. And Debbie, thank you for that too. So I'm a little confused by this. It sounds once again like, in America, we'd say, oh no, not the Briar Patch with Brer Rabbit. Maybe you Brits are familiar with that too. But it's the notion of, oh no, please, do you promise you're going to do this, Russia? I just don't get how they're harming the rest of us. I really don't. So, oops, just scroll down. Okay. Russia still, speaking of healthcare, almost done actually. Speaking of healthcare, Russia's attacking healthcare facilities still in Ukraine. Speaking of the World Health Organization, they say that as of today, Tuesday, they said that they verified 226 attacks on healthcare facilities in Ukraine, including hospitals and ambulances. That would be nearly 3 attacks per day since the war started, which is really crappy and unfortunately typical of the Russians. Flint Reed, who's always amusing, writes, more confirmation of them stealing as many IC chips. IC? I think we're talking computer chips. I'm not sure what IC is. IC chips, as they can cram in vehicles, it must be. So the sanctions must be causing at least vital part shortages to risk men and material getting them. What are IC, though? What are IC chips? I'm assuming these are some kind of computer chips from somewhere else. Basically, we were talking, because yesterday we mentioned that there were stories about the Russians taking computer chips out of refrigerators and washers, and that it was a sign of just how badly they were doing and how the sanctions were actually starting to take a bite. Oh, integrated circuit chips. Thank you. Flint was pulling a Harvey Kittle on me, trying to use language language and abbreviations I'm not familiar with. Not very nice, Flint. Okay, integrated circuit chips. In other words, the word you're looking for is computer chips? Or actually, could that be the same? I mean, is that the same as semiconductor chips? That's normally what we'd call them here. I'd call it a semiconductor chip. In any case, yes, the point is that the sanctions have been hurting them, which is good, and they've been having to go and take chips out of things like washers and everything else, which is great. The last thing, let me just talk about COVID, since I was asked yesterday to look it up. As I said, COVID in Ukraine, interestingly, there are no stories about COVID in Ukraine. And I was Googling thinking, wouldn't some reporters say like, well, this is kind of interesting. Wouldn't we Nicolina, thank you for that. And welcome. I'm saying like, welcome to the Finns and the Swedes today. Welcome to NATO. Well, assuming the Turks don't totally screw us up. But I'm surprised that there's no articles about COVID and Ukraine, because I thought it would just be interesting to say like, okay, what's happened? What has the war done? How has the war affected even information gathering with COVID, let alone putting all these people together in bomb shelters, all these people together of troops? Is it causing it to spread, or is it causing it to fade out because you've got 2,000, are people, what's the word the Brits were thinking of doing initially, herd immunity? Are you just having herd immunity of everybody in a bomb shelter and then they all get it and it's over? In any case, no articles at all. What I did find was just basic data. Ukraine has administered at least 31 million plus doses of COVID vaccines, assuming every person needed 2 doses. That's enough to have vaccinated about 35.7% of the country. So it ain't great. It's about a little more than a third of the country vaccinated, reportedly. But again, I wonder whether they're even getting reports now, considering how this is, the country's at war. But in any case, COVID-19 infections are decreasing in Ukraine. They're at 1% of their peak, but I still worry about reporting right now. There have been 5 million infections and 108,000 COVID-related deaths. That's all I got on COVID in Ukraine. There ain't nothing. So let me summarize the news really quickly, and then we will jump to the Q&A. So Finland and Sweden applied to NATO. Excellent. Flint, I will jump back to you after the recap. Finland and Sweden are joining NATO, or at least applied, and now we hope Turkey doesn't throw a wrench in it. The Azovstal deal is in question. We're worried about whether the Russians are going to basically kidnap all of the troops who were in the steel plant in Mariupol, whether they're going to let them go. Thank you, Marcy, for that. The Russians are digging in some of their defensive positions, like in Kherson and other territory they've captured, and that could be a concern. Because, I mean, they're literally digging in and fortifying these things. It could make it much harder for the Ukrainians. Oh, and by the way, this is why we don't like ceasefires, because ceasefire gives them even more time to dig in, so that it's way harder for the Ukrainians to try to take the land later on. The U.S. is considering blocking Russian debt payments. The EU is talking about money to give, European Union money to give Ukraine after the war for reconstruction, but they're putting lots of strings on it to fight corruption and other things. The U.S. is suggesting, rather than an oil embargo, what about tariffs on Russian oil coming into Europe? Russia is considering withdrawing from the World Trade Organization and the World Health Organization, which is a little bit of a cut off your nose to spite your face. Russia continues to attack health facilities. And Ukraine with COVID, at the very least, doesn't seem like, I mean, I should say it's okay. About a third of the people seem to have gotten vaccinated, which is something. It's not the worst. It seems to be something. All right, guys, that's what I've got for that. We did have Flint, the Flintstones. Probably most of the most vulnerable are now in Poland and other countries. So sorted, there is my guess. Okay, that's a good point too. Whether people who are vulnerable from getting COVID are abroad, it's possible. Yeah, and also, one would hope there had to be some kind of a regimen to get people vaccinated when they were crossing the border into Poland. Thank you for that. When they were crossing the border into Poland, I mean, I would think, and actually, all the better if only a third of Ukrainians were getting vaccinated, although one hopes it wasn't because of vaccine hesitancy, that it wasn't because they didn't want to get vaccinated, right? But who knows? There we go. My big cup of water. All right. Let us jump into questions here. Let me just look. As I said, I've got my little bot set up so I can check to make sure that I didn't miss questions. I don't think I missed a question. Let me just look here. Nope, just lots of nice donations from you guys. Thank you. And you know what? Let me jump to a TikTok question. On TikTok, you guys remember you can add questions at the bottom. I know, is Harvey on holiday today? I don't know, is Harvey missing? Oh no. You can enter your questions at the bottom of the screen where it says Q&A. And there's a lot of them. I can never get to all of them, but I try to get what I can. Why has China been so quiet? There's a damn good question. Beard asks, why has China been so quiet? Probably because they're being good. I had read something. I saw a reference, and I didn't see the article, but there was some editorial in the New York Times, I think, by a current or former Chinese officials, and they were talking about basically it was talking about how China has more economic interest with the West and this kind of thing, but basically was pushing the notion of no, China's not going to sell us out and go to Russia because we need you, blah blah blah. And again, the idea was this person wouldn't have been writing this without the Chinese government's approval. So, I think no news is good news as concerns China at this point. Well, that's a good point too. That's interesting. Tree Robitaille is saying that China's trying to keep from having civil uprising due to COVID lockdown. They are currently preoccupied, yes, but they could still potentially help Russia if they wanted to, right? Let me see here, because this is Andy Anderson was just weighing in on what we're talking about with the oil and the tariffs, and saying Reuters is saying the theory of the tariffs versus embargo for Russian oil. Let me get this off the screen. Oops. Remove question. The theory of the tariffs versus embargo is to keep the oil in the world market to prevent price spikes so they don't get more revenue. The tariff proceeds could go to the Ukraine fund. Okay. Yeah, I'd still need more economics to explain that. I did see that there was talk about it evening the prices. Not sure how it does. Well, actually, Russian oil is cheaper, I believe. Maybe that's how it evens the prices. Reuters is saying the theory of the tariffs versus embargo is to keep the oil in the world market to prevent price spikes, although we're not sure how, so they don't get more revenue. I guess that's true. If somehow, maybe that's it then. Maybe it's forcing consumers to cut back and businesses to cut back because of the price spikes. In other words, the price spike is happening on the consumer end. It's not happening on the producer end. So it's not like Russia's increasing its prices and getting more money. Its prices are increasing when consumers in Europe get it, and therefore they'll try to cut back on their consumption. Maybe. Yeah. And if Russia raises prices, maybe. Yeah. I'd have to, anyway, oil, confusing, but I will take that. Oh, CB, I talked all about COVID. There wasn't a lot. You know what? We could try to do it at the end again, try to remind me, but basically there have been no articles about where COVID stands in Ukraine. No articles about it. What there is just data, and the data there claims that Ukraine's doing really well. And Daniel, I see your question. I'll get to it in a sec. That the data is doing really well. They're only at 1% of their peak where they were. 35% of the country is vaccinated. But, I don't know how much data collection is happening during war. I don't know whether people being in bomb shelters together increased transmission. I can't imagine it didn't. Also, you got the troops. There aren't any articles about any of this, which really surprises me because it seems like it's optimal for an article, but there ain't nothing. So I just kind of went through the data that was there. So sorry. Danielle, good to see you. And thank you for that. On Sky News today, Professor Michael Clark, who seems to really know his military strategy. Oh, I like him. I follow him on Twitter. He's fabulous. Oh, wait, let me just see real quick if he's the same guy. If it's the same guy, I literally just read, he does these wonderful once a day Twitter thread updates. Let me see if I'm right, because otherwise I'm wrong. And then ignore what I'm saying. Never mind. I don't know. Mick Ryan is the guy I've been following. Mick Ryan. He's very good. Michael Clark, I don't know. I'll have to look him up on Twitter. Seems to really know his military strategy. Said he would be very surprised if the UK does not have special ops active in Ukraine, sharing real-time intelligence, locations of generals and ships. That's interesting. Well, look, certainly on the Ukrainian side, yeah, maybe not behind Russian lines or whatever. Well, there's the question too. Would it be behind Russian lines or everywhere else? Without knowing anything, but I thought from the beginning that we would have had somebody helping, as would the Brits and maybe some of the other countries, but certainly the US and the Brits would have had somebody helping on the ground, and could be military intelligence. Oh, somebody else is saying Michael Clark is brilliant. Okay, I'm writing this down so I can find him later on hopefully he's prolific on Twitter, Michael Clark. Oh yeah, I was going to say, but whether it was military, whether it's like a CIA, in other words, whether it's pure intelligence, whether it's military intelligence, but what it is, but that we would have, it could be special forces. Now, again, I'm not sure our special forces are going to be there. He's a professor. Okay. I'm not sure our special forces are going to be there to, bomb things and blow up ships, but intelligence to help them, and frankly, maybe even to be an intelligence liaison is a possibility as well. That's good. I hope it's true. And I'm sure it is. I mean, there's got to be stuff. There's got to be some covert stuff we're doing. I would say, especially now, some covert stuff we're doing, I would bet. Now that the war's gotten to where it is, where we really do, well, we pretty much want Russia to lose. We're still having a little bit of cold feet on the NATO side on that, but we hope so. CB, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, no, PB and J. Are there any Azov troops left in the steel plant? Yes, we think. What I was talking about earlier was yesterday, 264 troops were removed. We think there's around 1,000. That was 10 buses. Now I'm just extrapolating here, but we were told 10 buses, 264 troops. Today we were told 7 buses. That sounds like 26. I get to do my math again. 26 a bus. That's 140 plus 42, 182 or so. Added on to 264 gives you 440, 450, which leaves you with another 550 troops still inside. So it sounds like at least half are still left. So it's not great. It's not great news. Let me just because CBW was chatting with my cousin Ina, who fled the Russians during World War II. Oh, wow. And managed to cross Europe from Lithuania to Amsterdam, where she caught a boat to New York City. Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, that's interesting, though. You had nothing to add, but that's an interesting little anecdote. It could be a small bus. Well, it depends. Actually, that's a very good point. Trump Not Good on TikTok is saying, small bus, could be a bus of 40. We also don't know. We don't know whether it's the same size buses, but it sounded like they said 10 buses yesterday and 264 people, which sounds like 26 people a bus. Also, keep in mind, a lot of these people were the injured they were removing. So a bus was going to have the injured and doctors and nurses and helpers with them as well. So, and it's freaking Russians. So they had soldiers. They probably had an equal number of Russian soldiers, if not more, to guard these guys, right? Because these were POW buses. These weren't Ukrainians. So the Russians would have. So half the bus is being filled with Russian troops, keeping an eye on these guys. I hadn't thought about that. So that's definitely going to cut back on things. Let me pull another Q&A. Hang on a second here. I don't know if Ukraine's taking drone. Is Ukraine still taking drone donations? I thought there were private groups that were doing the drone stuff. Ukraine has been taking direct donations to its military from the website of the National Bank of Ukraine. And you could Google it, and they've got an English language page, and you can give to humanitarian efforts or you can give to military efforts to go straight to the military. That I know has been around for a while. I don't know whether they've I don't know that they actually had a direct fund for drones. I thought there were some third parties that were raising money for drones. So I don't know. But my guess is, they still need drones. So the more, the better as far as that goes. Oops. Let me pull up another one here. There's a lot of questions here, guys. So I apologize, but it's impossible for me to answer all of them because there's already like 50 plus here. Let's unite and let's roll. Okay. The joint session. That's right. I was in a joint I went to a joint session of Congress today. I was invited. Ruben Gallego is a congressman from Arizona, a good guy, and had an extra ticket to go see the Greek prime minister speak. And knowing I was Greek, asked me if I was interested, and I was. So that was very fun today. I mean, it was a good speech. Democracy. We're all in this together. He did talk about Ukraine a lot and was comparing it to, the Greeks were under occupation. And that it was good. He meant like 5 or 6 sort of standing ovations talking about how we had to come to the Ukrainians' aid. It was nice to see, and both Republicans and Democrats standing up and doing that, which was nice. Let me look right now. I'm going to look and see that national. I think it was. I'll tell you right now. I think it's National Bank of Ukraine. See, now that I've got the iPad, I actually can look for stuff real time while we're talking on my phone. Yep. It's National Bank of Ukraine. Oh, yeah, it's very easy. Just type in National Bank of Ukraine in Google, and it's going to come up. And it's super easy. One of the options, it's backwards, is going to say, let me show you this here, is going to say support the armed forces. See, oops, sorry. Oh, come on, you. Don't do this. Oops, sorry. I clicked the button. I was trying to. You can see there this option here, support the armed forces. And when you click there, You literally transfer from a card for Army. Yeah. Then you get a page. I used Google Pay. You could just use Google Pay, and you can make a donation to the Ukrainian Army. And they've got another link on the page. I think there's another link set up on the site if you don't want to donate to the Army, but you want to donate to humanitarian aid, and it goes to there. I did not get a cut for Congress. I got my hair cut last week in Chicago just because I'm not getting a cut for probably 3 months. So my hair just does different things each day. So it looks like it's cut. It's just a different day and the weather, and it explodes into something else. What else we got here, guys? Let me look here. Syndicate was just bringing up one of the drone sites. One of these drone donation websites says the following: with deep gratitude to everyone who donated $1,000 or more. Oh, we give an original piece of a downed Russian strike aviation. That would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool. I'm hoping our Ukrainian friends find me something cool. I mean, I did get my very cool shirt from Mary. I was very excited about that. But it would be neat to have like some piece of a Russian something or other. But someday I can add it to my Berlin Wall, my huge, I showed you guys. I'll show you again. I think I've shown you this before, my huge chunk of the Berlin Wall that I adore. Oops. This, my fave, my huge piece of reinforcing bar from the Berlin. And I love this because it kind of, well, I'll show you first. It kind of looks like a question mark. You can see, but also you can see it's freaking enormous, this thing. And I broke it off of the Berlin Wall. The best part was broke it off of the Berlin Wall around December 2nd of 1989, which was right when everything was happening. Totally cool. Oops. As I slowly put this away here. And as I've mentioned before, I'm still trying to find a good way. Oh, actually, I've got the lights off. 1 second here. I wasn't preparing for the darkness. Boom. There we go. Even do that a little bit. There we go. But in any case, my Berlin Wall thing. Yeah, I still haven't hung it anywhere because I'm afraid of killing my guests. Having it like come down and like, you know, like the first Damien movie. What was the movie called? Remember, with Damien the kid, where like the guy gets the thing through. I'm afraid I'm gonna do that to my guests. But it's totally, yeah, one of my favorite things. But I've got to figure out how to mount it, or I think I'm just gonna hang it on a wall. But it's still, I love that. But yeah, would love to get. I want like a huge piece of airplane. I am home, Beth. Yes, indeed. Oh, the Omen. Thank you. Wow, you are old. Hey, you know, somebody's got to be old. What else are you guys saying here? Final Destination 7, John's house. Exactly. The Omen. Yes, I like The Omen. It's funny. Watching it again didn't scare me as much, but The Omen was definitely kind of freaky. It was definitely kind of freaky when I first watched it the first time. I know. I've got to mount it. I've got to find something. I mean, I actually bought Rare John Lake sighting. This is true. I've got shorts on. Actually, I wear shorts all the time in the summer. Jeans get very uncomfortable to me in the summer. But no, I've been wanting to figure out how to mount it, and I'm thinking of I bought those little brackets, sort of, you know, the little they look like steel brackets or whatever, so I could put it in a wall and just hold it up. But I wasn't sure. Should I hold it up? Should it dangle from something? I wasn't even sure. Actually, I was almost thinking, you know, putting it in the middle and dangling it like a mobile just from a piece of fishing wire, because it would just slowly twist it. I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. Hanging it close up there. Or I could just put it on my, actually, see, now that I've got this, I can show you guys. Or I could put it on my pole back there. I haven't decided, but I am very bad about putting things up, and I have had that thing now since 1989. So it's perhaps time that I find somewhere to hang it. I've been going. People mentioned a fancy piece of wood or cement, you know, like, you know, like possibly getting one of, I mean, cement is, when you're in an apartment, isn't easy, but, you know, make a small block of cement that it's standing in would be cool. Or a nice, I shouldn't even say that, or finding some place, like some artist or somebody who can carve a nice piece of stone and just, you know, I don't know whether you could screw it in the stone and have it look nice, you know? I mean, Thank you. I know I like my lights in my apartment. It's finally made me happy. What else we got here? They destroyed. Bev is saying that they destroyed Ukraine's plant gene bank, 160,000 different seeds from around the world. What a bunch of jerks. Wow. Yeah, the Russians. I got everybody talking about horror films here now. Interesting. Mikola says, artist Borden Ziza disappears after arrest for pro-Ukraine anti-war protest in Crimea. He threw yellow and blue paint at an administration building in Yevpatoria. I'm saying that like it's Greek. Yevpatoria. Wow. Thank you, Marion. I figured you'd like it. See, I knew you'd like it. And, well, the best part about the rebar was we were on a congressional delegation, so traveling with Congress to meet with arms control negotiators, and we had planned the trips for months. And then what happens? But Eastern Europe starts blowing up, and amazing. I mean, right? Because this is the year. This is the year that Ceausescu's killed. I was going to say murdered. He wasn't murdered. He was killed, overthrown. The Berlin Wall came down. And this was probably 3 weeks into the Berlin Wall coming down, but the wall was still there. And the East Germans were still there on the wall with their machine guns, but they liked you taking pictures. And I've got some really cute pictures with these East German soldiers. It was just wild. I've got an East German hat because I got some East German gear when I was there. Really cool. And it still has the guy's name, Rob, his last name, Raab, in the hat. It's totally cool. But getting on the plane was the best part, I always tell, because it was a military plane, but with members of Congress and staff, and everyone's coming on with the stuff they bought and everything. And I come on holding this huge piece of bar. And the best part was it was like a second before people understood. They were like, what are you doing? And then they all went, oh my God. Best freaking tourist gift ever, that thing. But I mean, it means a lot to me. That's why I got it. Obviously, I didn't get it. I broke it off the wall. Tell me you saw Hasselhoff singing on the wall. I cannot stand David Hasselhoff. Okay, we've got to get to the, I was going to say, Jennifer's asking a question. Let's get back to the questions. Usually we keep the super silly, the funny stuff till the end. How will the transatlantic unity last? Yeah. Also, will the U.S. do more for Ukraine in the long run with their military? Transatlantic unity, always a concern. I guess I'm surprised it's been lasting so far. A couple things. I'm surprised that hello, MB Play on TikTok. I am surprised that we were able to get the Europeans and the Americans and everybody together to start with, that there wasn't lots of, oh my God, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like basically not wanting to do the sanctions we already did. I'm surprised that the initial fear, and Biden had this too, but the initial fear of making Putin angry did not overwhelm everybody. Yeah, that's cute, Debbie. Did not overwhelm everyone, because it was a problem initially, and then that fear of oh my God, if Russia gets mad, who knows what they'll do? That could have easily overwhelmed Europe and Biden as well, because Biden was concerned about it. It didn't, which is great. Yes, Johnny Weir, way worse than David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff, I have nothing against. I just find it comical that the Germans love him. That's it. A block of clay. That's not a bad idea too. In any case, so I've been surprised we've gotten this far. They're hanging together, even the Turks with the NATO stuff, they're complaining, but so far, it looks like hopefully the Turks will be able to come together with us on this. It's going to depend on when the big problem is going to be depending when we're feeling an economic bite. And I mean, gas prices are already a problem, but overall, how much it's hurting our economy or not. Thank you for that, Marcy. That's the thing. Oh God, nobody has done a hat today. Thank you, Hector. You may be the first. Usually the hat's the most popular thing. I don't know. I mean, I just really don't know. It's kind of like the question about how long the war is going to last. Lately I'm feeling like it could be short, it could be long. I mean, I could see Europe starting to go bad, or, people are, thank you, Amanda. people are getting used to it. I mean, you look at McDonald's. McDonald's analyzed the situation and said, you know what, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. And they're pulling out totally. So that to me was interesting because from a corporate perspective, could you see a lot of the companies, rather than putting pressure on the government to let them back in, their own governments, meaning European governments and American governments, going the other way and saying, thank you for that, Nick, going the other way and saying, exactly, it's not worth it. We're going to wash our hands of Russia, and therefore the unity holds because I don't know. Your second question real quick was, will the U.S. do more for Ukraine in the long run with their military? I mean, sure, we already are. The U.S. had already been training the Ukrainians and selling them some stuff before. I don't know what exactly we were selling them, but I want to say javelins. We were selling them javelins even before this, I believe. And we'd been training their military significantly, I think from 2014 on at least, if not before, but significantly since then, which is part of the reason the Ukrainians are doing so much better, not just us, but the fact that the Ukrainians were doing such a modernization of their military with weapons, but also with training. So there is no way the U.S. would not keep working with Ukraine because my guess is we would love to keep helping them with their military because they're the good guys, and anything that causes trouble for Russia, thank you, Firefly. Anything that causes trouble for Russia is, good as far as we're concerned. Now, what was Harvey throwing out there that people were, here we go, that people were saying, good question, Harvey. BBC's reporting that Putin is micromanaging. Oh, I did see that story. Yeah. So Harvey's saying that the BBC is reporting that Putin is micromanaging the war at the level of either a colonel or a brigadier. Would you imagine this is true? If so, is he annoying the military people? Oh, I'm sure he's annoying them. Yeah, the article was that, and a brigadier, I read that a brigadier was like the smallest unit the Russian military has is a brigadier. I don't know how many men it is. That I'm not sure. But that Putin was literally sitting down and, like one of those war games, deciding on little individual battles and things, and he's driving them up the freaking walls and at the freaking walls. That's fascinating. I hope it's true. And frankly, it would explain a lot, right? And I'm sorry, Ashton, there are literally so many questions, I can't answer them all. I apologize for that, but there's just, it's too many. Flower Lady, thank you. I just literally can't get to them all. And also, by the way, I'm talking to you guys and I'm talking to YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook at the same time. And it's just, there's too many questions in a good way, but I just can't get you guys. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, is it true? I wouldn't be surprised, only because the only piece of intelligence, that like I'm familiar with is the one I've told you guys that was like a week or two before the war. And supposedly somebody intercepted one of the local commanders that was outside of Ukraine, right? Because before the war starts, talking to Moscow and saying, we don't have enough troops. I don't have enough men to invade. This is not going to work. And, they didn't listen to him. So that, for example, too, like who told Putin, well, okay, so who decided that there were enough men to invade, right? In the end, it had to be Putin. It's possible his military boss told him that. It's possible. But all the Western military leaders were looking at this. Thank you, Amanda, for that. All the Western military leaders were looking at this and saying there aren't enough men, but the Russian generals looked and said, sure, there's enough men. I mean, I doubt that. I think the Russian generals probably knew as well, but they were afraid of telling Putin the truth. Which actually raises another question. I mean, it's entirely possible with the war planning overall that the leaders were afraid of telling Putin what was really going on. I mean, that's possible too. That he wasn't just micromanaging, but they weren't telling him the truth. So he'd say, oh, well, invade, go for it. Go for Kharkiv if we've got so many men. This is great, But you wonder who is it that told him that, why is it that Putin believed that they could take Kyiv, the capital, in 3 days? That's the thing that fascinates me. And whether Putin just said, no, we can do it, we're going to do it, or what. But yeah, I hope I guarantee you he's annoying the military people. Are you kidding? I mean, this is great that he's doing this. Absolutely great. Oh, wait, what was this? From Nicolina, thank you. Just because Harvey would if he wasn't in Belgium. Oh, is Harvey? I didn't realize you were in Belgium, Harvey. Thank you. Anyway, thank you, Nicolina. Harvey has been very supportive, so Harvey's allowed to ask questions that are regular questions too. I don't mind, obviously. He's been great. You recently learned that Hitler had Parkinson's, but it didn't develop until well into World War II. I did not know that. Interesting. I did not know that. Let me pull up another TikTok question here. Remember, TikTok, enter your questions through the Q&A box at the bottom because it makes it way easier to see. I still think the Russians aren't going to be using their nuclear weapons for anything. It'll go too badly for them. And if anything, the interesting thing is we're also seeing Russia kind of ratchet things down. The talk about NATO, for example, today. Finland and Sweden apply to NATO. Putin says, not a big deal. We're friends with them or we're friendly with them. They're not a threat to us. No big deal. Like, what? Huge. It's actually a huge deal. And if anything, Russia would have, I don't want to say the right to be angry, but the right to be angry as in it would be rational for Russia to be really pissed off that this is happening. And for him to be like, you go back to the May 9th speech, right? Their little World War II victory day. And that speech was very downplayed as well. It's very interesting, right? Remember, he didn't threaten nuclear war. He didn't talk about their victories. He didn't talk about Mariupol. We liberated Mariupol. None of that stuff. And I feel like since then they've and the last couple of days we've seen multiple references on Russian, whether it's Russian media that sounds like they're kind of admitting the war isn't going well. So I don't know what's going on, but there's some kinder, gentler side that they're trying to show, and it's very weird, and I don't know why. What is this? CBW, and watch the Hitler rant parodies on YouTube that use the material and add their own subject. Oh, of course. Yep. I made one of those myself, actually. David Hasselhoff is a hero. He could liberate Europe and be back on Baywatch by the weekend. Exactly. Don't mess with David Hasselhoff. Hitler's Parkinson's comes from a controversial new study. Interesting. Okay. Franny McDowell, is a nuclear attack less likely now, seeing as though Putin's speech said nothing about it? A couple things. Russia lies a lot, so I don't know whether we can put anything into what they say per se. It's interesting that they seem to be ratcheting down the tensions. That's good. Probably one hopes maybe that says something, although it could mean they're planning on doing something awful and they want to catch us off guard, right? That's possible too. To me, what made and if we say nuclear strike, Russia's never having thank you for that, Raw Dog. Russia's never having a nuclear strike against us. It would be them using a tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine. That would be my concern of a possibility. And I think they kept threatening this kind of stuff. And finally, we kind of called their bluff by saying, give me a break. I mean, this was a lot of different things. The British Defense Secretary saying, go in there and, Ukraine, it's okay for Ukraine to hit Russian territory. They can even use our weapons to do it. There was a lot of the West kind of going, you know what, we're not afraid of you anymore. And I almost feel like that made, thank you, Patty. I almost feel like that lessened tensions, ironically, because it was sort of like, okay, you're bluffing. We know you're bluffing. And if you know the other guy's bluffing, then things aren't as tense anymore in an ironic way, because it's one thing for you to say you're going to use nukes and mean it. It's another thing to say it, and I know you don't mean it, because then it's like, all right, whatever. So I certainly feel like things are less tense now than they were before, but, Putin's losing this thing. And at what point does him losing mean he's got to start, he has to, I don't know. I guess it also depends on what kind of support he's got back home. Does he have support in the military to use nukes? And I mean, tactical nukes in Ukraine, I mean, maybe the Russians, certainly from everything I've heard and been told, they consider tactical nuclear weapons, meaning small nuclear weapons, to be part of their arsenal and a normal aspect of their arsenal. We consider it a weapon of last resort. They do not. So there's always been that concern on our side that the Russians would be more willing to use it than we would. The only thing is, the Russians still have to figure in what would we do in response. And hopefully we've made it very clear that, yes, you, the Russians, consider this to be a normal part of any military operation using nukes. We, the West, do not, and we're going to respond the way we, the West, would, which is to lose our unholy SHIT if you do that. And I think maybe the Russians get that now, and they're like, you know what? We're losing this war already. We don't need the West to be providing, F-16s and a no-fly zone to boot. He blows off a nuke. And the sky's the limit. I mean, we could easily be doing a no-fly zone over Ukraine if he blows off a nuke. I think you would see demands from the American government beyond Biden, but meaning Congress, and I think the American people saying, you got to do something about this if he blows off a nuke. Make sure I didn't miss anybody here. I did not. Let me grab a Q&A from Tiki-Toki. Russia can try to put military pressure on Sweden. Simon Rundgren Sev. Simon, sorry. Not sure where your name ends and where the other thing starts. Would Russia put military pressure on Sweden? Oh, they're going to try. They're going to try, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, did I miss somebody? Okay. Oh, no question. Oh, thank you. Okay. Thank you, Melissa. I did not see that. I appreciate that. Thank you. Hang on a second. Oh, it is on my list that Syndicate set up for me, and I missed it. Thank you for that. And thank you, Franny. I was saying, the military pressure. Sure, Russia's going to be trying to put pressure on Sweden anyway. I mean, they try to put pressure on us, and they're even though Putin says he's not worried, he's pissed at Finland and Sweden. Of course he is, and he's going to try to put pressure on you guys, and he's going to do stupid stuff on your borders and all sorts of other crazy stuff. But you've already got the guarantees now. What did I say yesterday? It was Iceland, Denmark, and probably Norway that offered security guarantees. The UK offered a security guarantee that was literally troops on the ground was the United Kingdom's security guarantee. They offered literally troops on the ground. He was asked and said, are you saying you would send British troops to defend Finland or Sweden if they asked? And he said, if they asked, our troops are there. It was like, woo, Boris. So, and supposedly, I read the U.S. gave some kind of guarantees, but now I'm not reading about it. My suspicion is that that we gave guarantees, but we're hiding it. Is my suspicion that we're kind of not being as public about it. Let me just see. Beep, 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 beep. Was it? Hitler's Parkinson's was thought to be due to his abuse of amphetamines. Interesting. The theory is that Putin is suffering from the same issue. Now, amphetamines, not being that guy in high school and college, are amphetamines what you take to lift you up when you're not sleeping? Like or are the amphetamines lift you up, right? They don't put you to sleep. So you take it to stay awake, I'm guessing, right? Adderall? Yeah, but Adderall has like lots of different uses, right? I mean, that's ADD, I thought. But does it keep you awake? Is that the idea? Uppers. Okay, there you go. That's what I was thinking. They're stimulants. Okay. So you're at war and you don't want to sleep and you want to just keep going and going. Yeah, I would think that would mess with you over time. Boy, wouldn't that be delicious? Tree Robitaille, any chance, assuming Russia loses, that the world demands Russia give up its nuclear weapons? Man, wouldn't that be amazing? If Russia were to be conquered, sure. The problem is I don't see Russia being conquered. And part of the problem there is, too, they've got nuclear weapons. How do you conquer them? I mean, how do you conquer a nuclear power so that it can give up its nukes? It's an oxymoron, because a nuclear power, if it's pushed into if the Russians are pushed into a real corner where literally they're being conquered, they're going to use their nukes, I would think. You'd think they would. So I would love it. I'd love to see a situation where Russia is so desperate for money or whatever that they're willing to give up their nukes or significantly constrain them or whatever. I don't know that it would happen, but they need to be reined in. I mean, honestly, they need a revolution. They need a real revolution, a democratic revolution and a cultural revolution, because that place is too screwed up. It's at this point, after I mean, how many hundreds of years of lousy governments and just, what's the word I was going to say? Not sanctioned, legitimized murder. Do you have to approve? It's just they need the only way is having a cultural and other revolution. Thank you, Maria, for that. It's having a cultural and other revolution that can change that. What was this? The bus. Many of them are lying in 3 stacked. Oh, that was the bus earlier of them trying to get them in. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. 3 stacked bumps to take up space. Yeah. So who knows? Who knows how many they're actually getting out of there. Oops. Hold on. I'm going to look at my little list on the side from Syndicate to make sure I didn't forget anybody. Was it Franny saying thank you? Thank you, Franny. Tree Robotai, Nicolina for Harvey. I think I've got you guys now. Okay. I think that's okay. Thank you. Oh boy. Ludakriv? It cut out part of your name. Oh no, there it is. Oh my God. Ludakrivchenko Barriento. Ludakrivchenko Barriento. Close enough. Barriento I can do. The Cyrillic takes me a little more time. Actually, I had like a minor, not Russian experience today, but I was taking an Uber home, and it was kind of fun because the guy looked Asian, immigrant, Asian immigrant to America, and he's on the phone, and I only studied a year of Russian, but I've studied enough Russian that I can usually recognize when a language is not Russian, but is a Slavic language, so to speak. And he's talking, and occasionally there's da, occasionally there's, I forgot some other word he used. He used another word in Russian that I know, and I was like, so finally he pulled up to let me off, and I said, okay, you're from a former Soviet republic, aren't you? And he said, yeah, Kyrgyzstan. And I said, okay. I said, yeah, because I heard a few words, so I simply said, spasiba. And he said, pожалуйста. And it was very cute. But it was kind of a fun little, we had our little non-Russian Slavic moment today, me and the Uber guy, but it was kind of funny. That's an interesting point too. Yeah, David, CBW, I'm calling you, was sharing a comment from David, and I'm more concerned about one of the mercenary groups getting a hold of a nuke. I mean, the thing is, it depends what whatever. It depends it depends. I guess if they're tactical nukes, they can get a hold of them. The tactical nukes, maybe they can. I don't know how well they're protected, but the small nukes, how well do they protect them? I don't know. But so I'd definitely be worried about them being able to get a hold of those, but who knows? What else we got here? Let me grab another TikTok question here. Remember, guys, enter your questions in the bottom Q&A box, because that way they're all in one big box, and I can scroll through. North Korea, whatever. North Korea every once in a while has to do the me, North Korea, me. I'm crazy too. Why aren't you talking about me? In Kharkiv, the shelling stopped significantly, but they shelled again tonight, I understand, which is too bad, because that's the second largest city in the Northeast that finally was getting a respite. Let me see here. Brittany Grenier, the latest update was a couple days ago. The court extended her, incarceration or whatever for 2 more months pending trial, because at the very least, they've been trying to get her out, on home release or whatever, and the court refused because she's a bargaining chip. They're gonna drag her out. Greiner. Sorry, Grenier. You're right. It wouldn't be Grenier because it'd be EE. Greiner. Hey, I almost had her name at least. Give me credit. I used to say the basketball player. So I'm getting Brittany. And actually, the only reason I remember Brittany is because my friend Marion wrote Free Brittany, and I thought she was saying Britney Spears, and I'm like, why is Marion of all people? Especially Marion. I'm like, Marion? Exactly. I'm like, why is Marion worried about Britney Spears? It just seems so atypical of Marion. And now she's guffawing at home, but with her dog as the only person hearing her guffaw. But anyway, yeah, they're grabbing her for at least a couple of months before anything happens, and she clearly is a prisoner of war. That's why they grabbed her, and they love it because she's gay as well, and they love the whole gay thing. The Russian, their head of their church, Kirill, who's a jerk. He gave his speech in support of the war, which is just a sick thing to do for any kind of in the Orthodox Church. You don't do that I'm Orthodox. You don't do that kind of thing. And part of his justification was, the gay pride parades and this kind of stuff. And this is why, Russia needs to invade Ukraine is because of gay pride parades. So, the fact that she's gay, they're loving it in Russia to use her as just one more thing they can just, hold against us. Oh, that's interesting. Sorry, real quick. Tony Wilson saying, I think North Korea is actually a bully that's too afraid to ask for help. I'll bet half their population is COVID positive and 100% of their population is on ivermectin. God knows that wasn't their first case a week ago, Tony? I mean, that's for sure. No, the whole North Korea thing is just sad on so many levels. What a messed up, that country deserves to be liberated if there was some way to do it. I feel very bad for that place. Exactly. I'm with you, Nicolina. Choke them on my pride flag. Speaking of which, at some point, let me find him. Let me find that man, to use the term generously. Dmitry Kiselyev, who is the Russian propaganda chief, and he's the big Russian propaganda chief. He's always on TV going after the West in only the way he can, very sassy and angry. And this is literally the first picture of the man I pulled up. I'm showing you first. Okay. This is their propaganda chief. And then I'm showing you guys. Now, anybody out there who's gay, at least, will look at this and go, girl, this guy, I heard this guy when he did a thing several years ago, pissed about gays, and was talking about, you need to take them. And if there was a gay, frankly, you're literally going, girl, tone it down. Talk about overcompensation. He's like, if I found a gay in an auto accident, I would rip out their heart and I would burn it and bury it underground. And the thing is, I have to pull this one up from him because I'm listening to it, not really speaking Russian, but you didn't need to speak Russian to hear him and just go, oh my God, this guy, gay heart. Let me see if I can find this. I hope to God. Yeah. Where's the video though? Come on. Where's the video? Hold on. Okay, I think this is it. It's only 30 seconds, but oh God, yeah, it's from, of course, Huffington Post had it. Oh, it's on YouTube, even better. Okay, I want you to listen to this man's voice as he's speaking. And again, he's Putin's big propaganda chief.
Я считаю, что штрафовать геев за пропаганду гомосексуализма среди подростков мало.
Мало.
Им нужно запретить донорство крови, спермы, а их сердца в случае автомобильной катастрофы зарывать в землю или сжигать как непригодные для продолжения чьей-либо жизни.
I mean, literally, all he had to do at the end was go 2 snaps and a twirl. I don't even speak Russian, and I can hear this guy go, Mala. Anyway, that's the thing is, and I do not say this with malice. I say this quite literally, that this guy is in a very, very interesting job considering the regime he's working for. Let's put it that way. And I do not say this to mock the guy. I say it as a gay man. There's no chance in hell. There's no chance in hell that he isn't. But Mala, that was the word I heard. Mala. I don't know, Marion, you'll have to tell me. Do a lot of you proud, muscular Russian men speak that because you are our expert on proud Russian muscular men. But and yeah, Syndicate does use his powers for good. Where's the he's a sassy one. Yes. Fabulous and fascist. Exactly, Tony. Oh no, somebody needs to do a whole thing about this guy. Well, it's funny, except he's literally the propaganda chief. He's on TV saying that he's the one talking about nuclear war. He's the one years ago that wanted to nuke New York. Hard to say nuke New York. Nuke New York, and did like some big visual of nuking New York. Oh, hang on, KK. I see you had written something here. 1 second, while I was on my bender about this guy. KK asks, do you think the West overrated the USSR's military capability during the Cold War? That is a fascinating question. Basically saying, looking at how bad things are now, how bad things are, how we now know that the Russian army isn't all that. Whether the same situation existed back then during the Soviet Union. Hard to say. A lot of the stuff now they think is corruption, first of all. And, there may have been corruption back then. I don't know. Thank you, Summer, for that. But that's part of it is and it could be post-Soviet corruption in the system because of the oligarchs and everything else. And basically the money didn't go to the weapons and maintaining the weapons and maintaining the tires on cars of all things. That was one of the big things. I thought I had read somewhere that the Soviet army actually was better trained, but I don't know. That's a really interesting question. I'm gonna try to ask that of like the generals, the online generals. They don't always answer, but that's an interesting one. Because part of it is, I wonder whether we even know. I mean, I guess we did see them fight in Afghanistan, so we did see but honestly, look at the Russians even. We saw the Russians fight in Syria. We didn't have any sense of the Russian army being this bad, even though we saw the Russians fighting in Syria back in 2016, right? So I don't know. That's almost, and thank you for that, by the way, TikTok. That's almost its own interesting question, which is, why did it take this war for us to see that the Russian army was hollow when in 2016 we couldn't see it? Is it because there's a better enemy, a stronger enemy, just a stronger military that's taking them on? But why didn't we notice it before? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to write it down. That's a really interesting question to ask the general. If I can get an answer, I'll come back to you guys. Now, Kira, I have a sneaking. Oh, it is 8:20. Okay, I will relax a second. But Kira Luna bought something, but I've got a sneaking suspicion, Kira, that you may have intended to put a question with that, because it doesn't look like a super sticker. It looks like a chat. If you intended to put a question, please just enter the question normally. There it is. And you did. Perfect. Yeah. News on Russian isolation camps. Yep. Money Christina on TikTok says they're taking captures from Mariupol and sending them to isolated camps. Well, there have been reports. I don't know what we know. There have been reports, and there was even a map showing like 66 locations around Russia where Ukrainians had been sent to. And really kind of scary, because were they sent to camps or what? They were. I mean, one of them was in Kamchatka, Marion. Except that I don't even know if it was Petropavlovsk. It looked like it was further up. I was like, oh my God. It looked like the nowhere land of everywhere Russia is where they were sending these poor people to. So that's one thing we've seen reported. The other is, well, I was thinking you meant the filtration camps, because we know they're doing that anyway, but they're putting people through to make sure they're not Nazis or whatever it is. But yeah, that was a report a few days ago, and there was even a map showing these 66 locations around. I've not seen anything on it since then telling us any more. I don't know. But yeah, that's, that gets to the larger question of the Russians have got over 1 million Ukrainians that they admit, and they're going to hold them hostage. They're going to totally hold them hostage. And it's, this war may never end. And that CNN did confirm. Okay. Sorry. John Haupt says that CNN did confirm it. Okay. That's really nasty then. Wow. Thank you, Grandma, for that. Whenever I say grandma, it's not my grandma. It would be Yaya if it were my grandma. It's grandma on TikTok. I'm sure people are going, oh my God, his grandmother's on. How cool. Okay. Sorry, CB Swim. It was a Harvey thing. Here we go. I was trying to pull up Harvey's. Reports are saying that there's a mass exodus of Russians from Kensington, London's billionaire row, to prevent sanctions. We will see Russia start to leave. Will we see Russia start to leave their European hangout spots? I mean, the problem becomes, do they really want to go back to Russia? I mean, maybe they don't have a choice, but I'd be a little worried about going back to Russia right now. I mean, if I were an oligarch, I don't know. I mean, I would just be afraid that, Putin taking my money, Putin going on another killing spree of who he's going to go after. I don't know. Sorry, lightning. I'm changing the light as I talk to you a little bit. Where is it? There we go. I'm intrigued that they're leaving there, though. I'm intrigued that they're doing it now. Did the British government suddenly do something that freaked them out? Versus what it was doing before? Oops, hang on. Sorry, trying to put a little more light on here. There we go. I'm adjusting. I've got my automatic light adjusting thing, because one of the things you need to do as the sun is setting, so that I am not simply a pale vampire. I don't know, Harvey, and since you didn't pay for that question, I'm feeling much less guilty about not having an answer for you. So occasionally it does help to have Harvey not buy a question, because then I feel, and thank you for the hat, I feel much less guilty. But you stumped me on that one. I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I am going to wrap up, guys. Let me know if I missed anything. I mean, obviously there's a ton of questions, of course, I missed. But that's a given. I can only do so many of these in an hour and 20 minutes. But Italy just seized a guy's Lake Como house and revoked his citizenship. Excellent. Kukla, I know. Kukla's alone without Sasha. Kukla's cute, my mom's dog. Okay, guys, if I didn't miss anything, we're going to call it quits. I'll hang. We hang. Anyway, we hang for like another 10 minutes so we can hang and chat and say hi. But we'll call it quits on the political stuff, because that's what we do at the end. An hour 25 minutes. That was pretty good. I tend to do one of the longer. Thank you, Kronos. I try to do sort of one of the longer lives compared to some other folks I follow. What else is going on? I don't know what else. Yes, I'm back, trying to get back into the groove of things. I had to get up really early for the State of the Union today. State of the Union. I was telling folks, thank you for that, Christy. I was invited by Congressman Ruben Gallego of Arizona, a really good guy, to go to a joint session of Congress today to hear the Greek Prime Minister speak, which was very exciting. But it required me waking up at like 7 a.m., which for me is not done, only because I go to bed late. So I go to bed late and I try to sleep late. So it was thank you, Leon, for that. I appreciate that. It was, I just am very tired. And you know me, I'm tired anyway. So this was even worse. I did take a nap, and tomorrow I've got a dentist appointment. So I'm doing that. So I didn't yawn though tonight. I know I was a little, I had a nap with my dog for an hour or an hour and a half. See, now that you're saying it though, Greg, now I'm yawning. Look at how psychological yawning is. It's kind of amazing. CB, I literally have it here because I will even show you, because where is it? I've got it right under my, hello. I just literally grabbed it the other day to put it in my pile again, because it was here when I was gone in Chicago. Oh, come on. I've got it right here, this silly thing. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I had it right here. Got it. It's in my deck, but I've not gotten to it yet. I had left it here when I was in Chicago, and I should have brought it with me. So I apologize. I will take a look. I have not read a lot of things lately, but I will take a look. I promise you. But as I did say, at least I got your plant going. CB sent me a really nice little, now that we're in the show and tell period, that we're not doing politics, Sasha is sleeping at the moment. So I try not to get her up when she's sleeping. She's 12 now. I try not to get her up when she's sleeping. If she moves around, I will get her. But I was excited about this, that, I was going to show you. So this is I'm forgetting already what it's called. CB, you were telling me what it's called. It's not an orchid, but it's kind of called an orchid. We Googled what it was. You knew the name. You told me what the name was. But I decided for fun to try it in water. This is the one that makes the ridiculous flower that is literally like this, and they grow in Arizona and stuff. But look at the roots. I like trying things in water, and it does work. You can see the roots there. You can just see the roots. Yeah, there we go. Isn't that wild? Yeah. And it's finally getting a little thing at the tip there. Just kind of see it a little bit right there at the tip. So very exciting. But orchid cactus? Yeah, okay, that's it then. Yeah. But no, the ones in the water, I'm shocked. One of them died. 2 of the ones in water worked, and the ones in dirt worked as well. So if anything, I'm going to have too many. Probably. Well, I'll put them all. I may put them all in, like all 4 in one pot and let them kind of have their way. But I was very excited that they survived. So, because that's the scary part, is getting them to survive the initial thing. But I like trying things in water. I'm a good little gardener. Actually, again, as always, it's hard to show the computer people. I can show oh, actually, hold on. Can I switch? I can't switch this while I'm on. Here, I'll try to show you there, you can see my African violets. I have a total green thumb with African violets, and actually, the stuff on the bottom's the flowers on the bottom are really nice. You can only just see those, the ones that are multicolored. But I thrive with African violets. You guys are out of luck. Sorry, I can't move the laptop. This is one of the advantages now of finally having the iPad. I actually can do stuff like that. Yeah, and those African violets, of course, are literally some cuttings. I did the recap. Well, there's a question about doing the recap. That's an interesting question about doing the recap at the end of the actual. I guess we could do that. I could do the recap at the very end of I did it at the end of the news summary, but let me tell you really quick. So Finland and Sweden applied to join NATO today. Russia says it doesn't care. Turkey's still causing problems, but a lot of us think Turkey just is looking for the right bribe. They'll come along. Maybe 450 or so-ish, maybe 480, whatever. Less than 500 of the troops got out of the steel plant, the Azovstal steel plant. Another 500 are probably still there. The Russians are starting to play games, and it's not clear the Russians are going to release any of them. The Russians are digging into defensive positions. Thank you, Christy, there. All over southern Ukraine. The U.S. is considering blocking Russian debt payments. The European Union is looking at reconstruction money for Ukraine, but looking at tying it to reforms. The U.S. suggested using tariffs on oil instead of an oil embargo. Thank you, Grandma, to cut back Russia's revenues from oil in Europe. Russia is considering withdrawing from the World Trade Organization and the World Health Organization. Russia has been continuing to attack healthcare facilities. And I did my quick little thing on COVID in Ukraine. I'll tell you again, there are no news stories on COVID in Ukraine at all, which is very interesting. Ukraine has administered around 31 million doses of the COVID vaccine. That means about 35% of its population would be vaccinated. Somebody else had raised the good question of whether, for example, the refugees crossing into Poland, whether they got vaccinated there, that could have helped. COVID infections are reportedly very low, 1% of their peak. But, is it really being tallied in the middle of war? I was just saying with that point that I was thinking people in fallout shelters and everything else have a really good chance of spreading COVID and troops of spreading it to each other as well. So who knows? That's the summary. But I'll consider doing that. I mean, I've been doing I did the recap at the end of the news, but I will consider doing it at the end of the show as well, since it is different people coming on at different times. That way, even if you joined late, it at least gives you a sense of what the news was for today. So, is Leon posting some question or something? Oh, there's movement in the force. Hey, what you doing? Do you want to? My dog is going to stop me from picking her up. What do you think? Oh, you got to go out with that? Go on. Sorry. She wanted to go on the balcony. I'm like, all right, go on the balcony. I'll try. If she comes back in, I'll try to get her. Was Leon trying to ask something or something? Sasha, it's hard to tell if Sasha misses Kukla, my mom's dog. because I will say this, there was one, I even took a picture of it at one point. It's probably, I don't even know if I can find it while talking to you, but at one point,
Defense forces.
my both dogs like to sleep under the table where I work at mom's in mom's living room. And I've got like a bed for each of them. And Kukla never sleeps there when I'm gone, but when I'm there, she always wants to sleep under me. Okay, come here. Come here. She won't come in. Come here. Sasha, oh my God. Get in here. She didn't want to come in because she knew I was going to pick her up. I've never had her do that before where she wouldn't come in the house. She wouldn't come in. Sasha, they want to say hi. Do I have to? Okay, I've got to bribe you. All right, fine. I will bribe her with a little bit of food. All right? And then afterwards, you get the treat. Come on, come here. You'll get the food and you get this. See, it's funny how it's not, come here. Thank you. All right, there you go. All right, there you go. Oops. All right, got it? Okay, now you can say hi to everybody. She literally went back onto the porch rather than have me pick her up. She was so pissed. She was like, no way. Hates to be picked up. Okay? Yeah? You're not being sociable at all. You're going to lick your, I know. Do I get a lick? Yeah? A little bit? Oh, there's nothing there for you. She thought I had peanut butter on my hand or something. Oh, we're just going to lick it to be cute? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll put you down. Yes, Sasha is adorbsable. Who's Leon's? Oh, sorry, there was a question. What was Leon? Was it Leon's question? Oh, yeah, it didn't show the question. You're right. I see that. It says Leon donated, but no question. Okay, Leon, what is your question? That's weird. But no, but it shows, I am showing it on the little screen that Syndicate set up for me. It shows Leon donated $4.99. Yeah. Hey, what? Oh, sorry. What? You got to wait, Sash. 1 second. I'm not done. Sorry. Oh, let me give my dog a little bit of water. And then, Leon, write your question now normally, and I'll just answer it. I'll give you a little bit more water, but I'm not doing your teeth until we're done here. Right? There you go. Right? Okay. Ooh. I was getting the angry demand from the dog for water where she goes, it was like the vampire demand. Almost like demanding a ball, actually. Yes. My dog's name is Sasha. All right. What was Leon's question? Sasha, you can wait. Just wait. Now she's behind me doing the thing. Oh, bye, CB. Thank you. Appreciate it. So I'm just looking to make sure. Oh, interesting. Okay, you guys are trying to help Leon. But yeah, Leon, what's your question? Just tell us what it was now. Happy to... Oh, I'm definitely watching next year's Eurovision. Are you kidding me? That was fun. Your pit bull thinks he's a lapdog. Oh, pit bulls are amazing. I have been shocked at the pit bulls I've met. Absolutely shocked at how nice they've been. Sweetest animals. Absolute sweetest animals. Yeah. I love meeting. I mean, very rarely they're mean, but I like them because they're just, Oh, et merci à vous, André, I'm trying to think. I don't even know. I'm tired. I'm not good at the French niceties. I speak French very well, but not at that. I was going to say having joined us? I don't even know where I'd say that in French. Joined. Well, yeah, de nous joindre, I guess. Or d'avoir nous joindre. Having joined us? D'avoir nous joindre. Well, no, je crois pas. Anyway, I'm trying. I'm tired. Leon, what's your question? Come on. Put it in the normal chat. Now you got us. Now you got me feeling bad. None of us can sign off until we see your question and answer it. All right. I'm going to see what else people got. Kharkiv is, Kharkiv itself was not taken over by the Russians, but they were bombing it nonstop. But they had taken over a lot of the suburbs and stuff. They're pretty much nous joindre, ouais. Oh, nous rejoindre. Nous rejoindre. Well, that's true. But nous rejoindre is if he's been here before, then he's rejoindring us. Or j'espère que tu nous rejoindre, I guess, to come again. But yeah. My dog is cute. I know she's fabulous. I hope daylight savings time is here to stay because it's so ridiculous. You know, changing the time. And honestly, and then we change the time and the dog gets pissed. That's the stuff that drives me the most nuts. You know? I don't know what else. Okay. Anyway, sorry about that, Leon. Oh, anyway, guys. All right, I think I'm gonna call it quits. Well, here's my question. Because of the TikTok numbers, thank you, Christy. I never know if the TikTok numbers are because TikTok is playing games, which they probably are, or like the time I set. Because when I was in Chicago, I was doing an hour earlier, and then we seemed to get used to it. But then I was feeling bad for the Americans because I felt like that was eating into your guys' time, doing it at 6 p.m. Eastern. So now I'm back to 7 p.m. Eastern, but I know that kind of makes it hard for the Europeans. And I just don't know, you know, I could go back and forth each week, but I almost feel like that's too confusing too, right? Because people look at, people just sort of remember what time it is. So I'm at an impasse here as to what time to meet up again. Yeah. Nous rejoindre. Right. But anyways, bye guys. But yeah, I'm still having a hard time trying to figure out what time to do this at. Whether the other time was better for folks. Just because the TikTok number was worrying me. It was definitely less in the last couple of days, but I still don't know if TikTok, well, like you said, some of the TikTokers just aren't getting notifications. So it's entirely possible TikTok's just playing games with me. I know 6:30 is a possibility too. If that doesn't just confuse everybody. I thought about that, Greg. I thought about that. Forget GMT. Don't even go there, Harvey. Don't even go. That's why I say Paris time again now to make it easy, because you guys at least know what your time is compared to Paris. You know, I think each week I may go back and forth. Since we did better for the Europeans, whatever, we can try. No, you know what? I want to see if the TikTok thing, if that's what this is. Tomorrow, let's do 6 o'clock again. I don't want to screw people up, but we're going to do 6 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. All right. I will tell you this, and I should keep saying it throughout the show. Always, always, always go and check my TikTok, check my Facebook, check my LinkedIn, check my Twitter. Well, Twitter's hard to tell. Check my YouTube. You will see. It will tell you what time this is for your time zone. As soon as I get off now, I'm going to set it up in the next 10 minutes. So you can go to my TikTok profile and you can always see you scroll down the profile, there'll be something that says live, blah, blah, blah. It will tell you exactly what time for your time zone this is happening next. And the same thing on YouTube and LinkedIn and everything else. So simply go and check that in the future and you'll know what time, okay? But I think tomorrow I'm going to do the earlier time again, the 6 p.m. Eastern, which is the time I was doing for Chicago. And let's just see. Because like I said, I'm a little bummed that the TikTok numbers dropped significantly, but it easily could be TikTok screwing with me. You know, who knows? So I changed time zones and had a conniption fit, as my mother would say. I love mom expressions. Conniption fit is one of them. All right, guys. And thank you, moderators, as always. 6 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. New York time, which means midnight Paris time. So at least it's a little more reasonable. And as always, we do early on the weekends so that Europe is not a problem. So there you go. YouTube does alert you. Well, that's good. That's good. All right, guys. So 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow and midnight Paris. All right. And as I said, I'm going to go set it up right now. So within 5 or 10 minutes, you can go. Always remember, you can go to my TikTok account and just look at the profile and it'll tell you right there what time and date the next one is. And the same thing for you guys. You can always go and look at the YouTube. It'll be on my YouTube homepage, which you can click my name and find it because you're on YouTube anyway. On my YouTube homepage, once I set it up, you'll see the latest one on top live that you can watch, the latest recording. and right below it is the next live that's scheduled, so it's there too for you. All right? All right, guys, have a good night. I'm going to wait until I get a flurry of buys from TikTok so I know you're caught up, because I know they're a little bit delayed. Thank you for joining me, TikTokers, and all of you guys too. I feel like I'm in the groove. I'm getting in the groove again. It was a little weird shifting from mom's place to here, but I'm finally, other than the fact that I feel like I'm getting a suntan every night that I sit with you guys, but you see how the light changes too. It's so freaky from like sunlight to now darkness. And see, now I get the mood lighting. I like my mood lighting in my apartment. Anyway, all right, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye, guys. I'll sign off with you guys.